Hello there, my zealots. It's Joshua coming at you today. How are you doing? So, I've had discussions, I've had comments, I've had thoughts, and I've had queries. There is a concept that I constantly bring up, and it talks about because I'm very vocal about my opinions, especially when it comes to scripture. And being this vocal, there's a lot of people that come against it and say, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And one of the things that people have issues with is the whole homosexuality thing. And when I make a lot of sense about a lot of things, they come up to me and it's like, well, is this biblical or that biblical or the other thing biblical? One of the things they brought up is we talk about homosexuality. And one of the things they bring up about homosexuality is it biblical or not to be homosexual? I'm like, well, the Bible, there's a double standard. There's a huge double standard in the Bible, actually. And basically, women, or it talks about men. If men have homosexuality with other men, it's not, God does not like it. He doesn't like it. It says you're not allowed to, a man is not supposed to lie with another man as if he's lying with a woman. But then some women, specifically women, come up to me and say, well, what about women on women? And I'm like, well, the Bible really doesn't care if women are being intimate with women. And I brought this up on many occasions, but then there's these times where these Christians come up to me and they're like, well, it does say stuff about women. And they bring it up and they're always like, yeah, God doesn't allow women to engage in homosexual behavior at all. And they give me this verse, and this is the verse that they always give me. And it's always the same verse, and it never changes. It's just this one verse, and it's the only verse they got. And we're going to go into it, okay? And it's in Romans 1:26, and it says, for this cause God gave them up to their vile affection. I'm yawning. I'm sorry. Okay, for this cause God gave them up to their vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And they're like, see, God doesn't like them to be lesbians. I'm like, well, what is the definition of against nature? And they say, well, homosexuality. I'm like, well, does the Bible define that as against nature? Does the Bible define it as against nature? It's like, it doesn't have to. Well, yeah, it does. It says in 27, likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in lust for one another, men working as them seething. So basically the men are having sex with other men, and that's against nature, but it doesn't define that for women. I'm like, well, it's in the same context. I'm like, no, because men and women are different, so therefore different rules apply to each man and to the men as it does to the women. So I can go into definitions. Okay, let's define what is that against the natural use of the body. According to Scripture, having sex with an animal goes against the natural use of the body because we have verses that say, do not have sex with animals. Okay, a woman having sex with another man outside of her husband is considered against the natural use of her body. A woman that avoids pregnancy, that is against the natural use of her body because it says go forth and multiply. And avoid the fires of Molech, you know what I'm saying? And you're not supposed to, it says, the only type of birth control is abstaining, or is basically abstinence. If you all agree to one another that you, with prayer and fasting, you're supposed to abstain with prayer and fasting and then come together when you both agree. These are concepts. These are the things that are against nature. If you have sex with your brother, that's against nature. If you have sex with your father, that's against nature. If you have sex with your son, that's against nature. And all these things in the scripture are defined. What is not defined is lesbianism. In fact, homosexuality between man and a man is defined. However, lesbianism is not defined. And why? Why is it that lesbianism is not defined? The problem is that God cares about things that are beneficial. Okay, the things that are beneficial, God allows, and the things that are not beneficial, God refuses. He will adamantly say that it's not going to work. When it comes to men having sex with other men, when a man lies with a man as if he lies with a woman, what is the benefit behind that? Well, from a biblical perspective, not even just from a biological perspective, there is no reproduction is key to righteousness. Okay, you want to be able to, you want the righteous people to reproduce. If you are having sex with a man, if a man is having sex with other men, there's no reproduction at all. Oh, and then people will say, well, the same can be said about women. I'm like, that's not necessarily true. If you look at women and on a broad scale, on a broad scale, women are more on a sexual spectrum than they are hardwired for a specific I like men or I like women. Men are more geared towards this is what I like and what I don't like. Women are more like fluid in their sexuality. Women are interested in men, and women kind of equally-ish, depending on the woman, obviously. There's a greater one way or the other way, or kind of like in the middle. And the benefit to having this, it actually has benefit. So, like, we know that if a man has sex with, if there are 10 women and 10 men on a deserted island, you have 10 babies in a year's time, right? Now, let's say you have 10 women, 1 man. You can still have 10 babies. But if you have 1 woman, 10 men, you have 1 baby. That's it. So this is the importance of it. So let's say that there's 1 man with 10 women, right? What is the biggest problem that you're going to face when it comes to having so many women? Well, jealousy. Jealousy is the biggest factor, the thing that's going to be the biggest problem in bringing up your household. It says, if a household divided against itself shall not stand, right? Shall not stand. It's not a good thing that your house is divided. So what is a biological way to overwrite or to overcome this inherent jealousy? Well, one of the best ways to do it is engage what is known as imprinting, sexual imprinting. Now, there's this hormone called oxytocin. And whenever a woman is breastfeeding, this oxytocin is released. And in the release of this oxytocin, it causes the mother to bond with the breastfeeding child. Now, this oxytocin is also released whenever she has an orgasm. And it is also released the first time when she has sex. So, like, these things cause, like, if you can give a woman an orgasm, you have her have babies, take her virginity, all these different things cause her to release oxytocin. And this causes the imprinting, the bonding chemical oxytocin to be released, and then there's this cohesiveness that's allowed. This is the love chemical. So if I am in a relationship with multiple women and they're all giving birth to my babies and they all are in competition with each other, if they are engaging in intimate behavior, then that benefits me because then they're becoming bonded to one another and our social cohesion becomes stronger and the whole unit is strengthened and built up, and now they can support each other and help each other with each other's offspring. This is why the Bible doesn't inherently disallow polygamy. In fact, it supports it. And Jesus Christ makes a parable about polygamy, and God references his relationship with Judah and Israel as if he was a polygamist husband. These people, this 5 wise, 5 foolish is Jesus Christ's parable about the church and how he is a polygamist husband to all these different women, figuratively speaking. The whole reason that women are wired this way is to support this polygamist mentality. A woman is dedicated to her husband. And if a woman comes online, she falls in love with that woman, and the woman and her become intimate, and then they share that intimacy. And in that intimacy, they become bonded to one another as they're bonded to their husband, which the husband then also impregnates them with their child. So they are now all bonded together as one cohesive family unit. Going against the natural use of your body is going against the nature of reproduction. A woman's purpose is to reproduce. It says, go forth and multiply. Your desire shall be to your husband, he shall rule over thee. What is ungodly for a woman? What goes against the natural use of her body is not to be submissive to a man. If you have 2 lesbians and they're going at it, and neither of them have a husband, that's their sin. Their sin is not that they're lesbians. The sin is that they don't have a husband. They don't have a man that they submit to. They're refusing to submit, which goes against the nature of their bodies. But if they have a husband and they are breeding with that husband and they're having babies with that husband, but they still have a physical and intimate relationship with one another, that's godly. That's righteous. That is not considered evil or vile or sinful in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, I thought I'd bring this to your attention. It's a subject that I think is greatly glazed over, and I'm hoping that we can encourage some kind of sort of debate or dialogue about the subject, because I really enjoy talking about it. And I think it's a subject that really modern Christians really need to get involved with, because polygamy and this whole lesbianism thing is something that most Christians turn a blind eye to, bury their head in the sand, and hope it just goes away. Anyway, you know I love God because I love virtue, justice, salvation. It's been a pleasure talking to you. You have a great day, and I hope to see you again. Bye.